Good evening, viewers from wherever you're watching us from. It is always good to be back on this platform. This is your favorite one-to-one program coming to you on QTV, and I am your host, Julde Jai. And this evening, I have the Minister of Information with me. Like we always do, we bring on board ministers to talk about their policies, programs, and of course, the strategies that they have in place, all towards gearing towards ensuring that we achieve the National Development Plan. And this evening, I have the Minister of Information, who is Lamin Kuinjame. Good evening, Honorable Minister, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Julde, for having me on the platform and for creating the opportunity to be heard by the public. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Honorable Minister, like I said earlier on, this program, it's meant to look at critically the policies you have, programs your ministry have, for the Gambian people. So as a new ministry, take us through how you've been structuring your ministry over the past years.
Thank you very much, Julde, once again. In terms of structuring the ministry, you will remember that before the decoupling, this used to be the Ministry of Communication, Information and Communication Infrastructure. Then on the 4th of May, 2022, it was decoupled, leading to my appointment as Minister of Information, standing alone now, and the other sector of it went to the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, which made it necessary that fundamentally everybody had to structure his ministry. In the structuring program, the first encounter challenge that I had was the manpower. Getting the manpower requirement of the ministry. Because if you like, I can say, when the decoupling was done, a good number of the staff preferred going to digital economy to staying at the Ministry of Information. So by the time digital economy was moving to their new location, we were left with a staff number of only, I think, my PS plus 5 others. So you see, that was interesting. So immediately we had to embark on the staffing requirement. And thank God that we have worked on this. And at this time, even though it is still not complete, but we have a reasonable number of staff, enough to work as a ministry. But as I said, in the staffing structure, we are still left with some gaps, such as a deputy permanent secretary technical is seriously required. As we are speaking, we are working with stakeholders in that direction to fill that gap. The other matter that was necessary at the time was to embark on stakeholder mapping and consultation. Because unless you are informed of your stakeholders, you can always be confronted with a challenge. And this is the reason why we had to embark on a nationwide tour, primarily to map out our stakeholders, to consult with them, be the radios, televisions, the print, as well as the Gambia Press Union and the Gambia Media Council. All these are very important stakeholders that we have in the information value chain. And each one of them is a critical partner, seen to be. All right? So That is, as far as structuring is concerned, these were the two concentrated areas that we had, and we are able to establish links with a good number of them, depending on how critical you are to the functioning of the ministry as an institution. Yes.
Okay. You did mention that, of course, when this ministry was separated, one of the issues you have was with the issue of manpower. Most of your staff preferred going to the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy than to your own ministry. Was it true by choice, or was it by qualification?
Sometimes it may be dictated by specialization. For example, if the number of them were many in the area of ITC, for instance, the ministry they are going to is more ITC biased than we are. So that could be a factor. But generally, I don't think it is not also, maybe not only the specialization, but sometimes you may think that, yes, a particular place would be more greener than the other place. That could also have been a factor. However, we are able to address to a very large extent that situation.
So what is, talking of information, what is the role of the ministry in terms of the information value chain in the Gambia?
Thank you very much. The Ministry of Information, like the parent body itself, that is the central government, has generally the responsibility of creating the enabling policy and operational environment. The Ministry of Information has that role of creating the right policy and operational environment for the value chain of information to triumph. You will remember that in the previous regime, the relationship between the media practitioners and government in general, and probably information specific, was not very friendly. It used to be, if you like, hostile. It used to be antagonistic. And since my appointment into the position of that ministry, we saw the need that it is important to advocate for a paradigm shift from that line of thinking, from that approach to fundamentally a new approach, shifting the paradigm from hostility or antagonism to regarding each other as important partners in the area of development. That unless we change that line of thinking, it would be difficult. So that was another very important engagement we had. Through advocacy, we are gradually changing the landscape from hostility to regarding each other in a partnership, an effective partnership for development. Another role is making available public information accessible to the public. In an open governance system, information is key. The public must be informed. Information must be made available to them. And two important approaches are used in this. There is what we call proactive disclosure of information for public consumption. And where that proactive disclosure is not done, the public as individual members of a society or as individual members of organizations can also solicit information. And therefore, information availability can be either of the two ways, by solicitation from the public and by proactive disclosure from the government to the public. All right? It is also our role that we initiate laws that can facilitate this process because actions must be backed by law. They can be facilitated by policy and be guided by strategy. So that as a government entity operating in a system, it is important that our actions are based on law and that it could be facilitated by policy development or formulation and in the implementation of which you are guided by strategy.
Speaking of laws,
yes,
we know that we still have the draconian media laws in the Constitution and all of these other laws which are really still hindering the work of media practitioners and making sure that the flow of information is kind of restricted. What is the ministry doing that? Because you said that when you came in newly, information was antagonized. But now, since you came in, there is that easy access to information. But what is the ministry doing about that, the laws that we have in place?
The ones that you are describing as draconian. Yes, ministry. At the moment, we are working on a scheme. And the scheme that we are working on is what we call Key Stakeholders Consultative Forum. It is the plan of the Ministry of Information that everybody has a matter with information. But there are those who are very key and they are the actors. We will call for a forum of these key stakeholders. One of the responsibility that would be expected of the forum is what you have just cited. Primarily to help in the identification of information officers who are going to be what we call them the Information Commission. In the implementation of the ATI, it is an important requirement that we have to have an Information Commission. And in order to form this Information Commission, it is our thinking that this key stakeholder consultative forum must be called. They will not only facilitate the process of identifying potential members of the commission, but also they will be tasked the responsibility to review and to come up with all those laws that are not media friendly.
And who are these stakeholders?
No, the stakeholders you are saying, critically the Gambia Press Union is giving the direction, and the Gambia Press Union is going to be responsible of communicating the message to other CSOs, community-based organizations, so that the group or the forum is formed.
So in the area of Information Commission, this particular commission, where is the funding coming from? Do you already have funding for it, for the staff that would be employed there?
You will remember that the ATI was formed into law, enacted by the Barrow administration, because President Barrow and his government has committed itself to democratic governance. And because they have committed themselves to democratic governance, otherwise sometimes we call it open governance, a governance system that makes government accountable to the public, it saw it necessary that this information, the ATI, is enacted into law. To operationalize the ATI, it requires that the Information Commission must be put in place. And it is no other's responsibility than the central government. But as I said inter alia, with COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine conflict, there was an impact on the global economy generally. And when this impact came, priorities in different locations shifted. And because of this shift in priority, we were not able to support from the budget the Information Commission for 2023, which was our primary target. But all conditions constant, there would be budgetary allocation for the formation of the Information Commission and for the rolling out of the ATI.
This particular Information Commission, when are we expecting it to be rolled out?
Hopefully, January 2024. Beginning from January 2024, because it is going to be included. It is already included in this budget formation. All right? So, with the requisite budgetary allocation provided, the commission shall be formed.
Okay. So, aside from the Information Commission, what other issue is hindering the implementation of the ATI Act?
Budgetary matter is one thing, but the other thing is that, you know, implementation does not necessarily mean that it has to be a one thing go off straight. The groundwork is being done. For example, I think in most of the ministries now, we have posted public information officers who, to some degree, are important focal points in the operation of the commission. That is already being done. The ministry also had embarked on a study tour to find out best practice in Liberia, who are already 13 years old in their implementation, so that that best practice can also be done. What remains now is the budget to be allocated, and then the commission is formed and a secretariat is provided.
So who are the supposed staff of this particular commission?
No, that is what I said earlier on.
Yes.
I said the commission shall be staffed by commissioners. These commissioners are going to be identified based on their suitability on a particular criteria.
Okay.
And to make that approach of open governance and the approach of inclusion, that everybody matters in it. That is why the ministry is in the process of making that convergence of key stakeholder consultative forum, where the Gambia Press Union, probably the Media Council of Information, the Information Media Council, and also CSOs will be invited. And it will become the collective responsibility of all in a participatory process.
Okay.
To identify who these people are going to be.
So you also mentioned about access and the fact that how it is important for not just the ministry, but the government, the borough-led administration, access to information to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And of recent, we've seen lots of issues coming out. It has been published on the media that the government is restricting certain media houses based on the fact it has been alleged that because those media houses were, responsible for propaganda and they are anti-government. Is that anything to go by?
As the common saying goes in Mandinka, you may not bear your preferably baby, but with whom you deal is something that one can decide. Partnership anywhere is the voluntary association of the participating partners. Government as an entity has the right to decide on what sort of work it is assigning, who is best to implement it, and how best can it be done. So every media institution has a right to decide that I shall not be dealing with government. But government too has a responsibility to decide on who is the best person to perform this duty or that duty. So based on the suitability of institutions, government is going to decide any matter that comes its way, including the matter of the media. All right? Yes.
So does that mean that the allegations are true, that you perceive these media houses as anti-government? That is why you don't want to advertise with them.
Which media houses are these?
These are the Kirfatus and the Standards and the others.
As government entities, I am saying, Julde, it is very easy to understand how work is being done. If, for example, in the area of advertisement, if you advertise for a particular thing of government, what is advertised should be seen to be done in good faith and must also be seen to have been done properly. There must not be controversies between what is said and what is done. If there is a controversy, there will be a mismatch in the results. And to avoid that, you must give it to not your friend, but the job's friend who can do it best. So if you want to compete in any work of government, you have to have the ability, the equipment, and the moral character to carry out that function. Those who do not qualify the three may not be eligible for award.
So are you saying that these particular media houses do not have these criteria that you are talking about here, or this criteria?
That is exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying it is not only, even QTV, if you do not meet the criteria, you have the right equipment, you have the right ability to perform, and you have the right character to do it, it will not be wise for government to award you any such works. And anybody who falls within that category would therefore be disqualified.
Is this not taking Gambia or the media back to the Jammeh era?
I don't think so. The reason why I do not think so is that if you are given a piece of work to do, it must be done properly. If you advocate for non-smoking, for example, you must not be seen to be a smoker yourself. But you cannot do all your media engagement, don't smoke, and the next minute, you are seen smoking yourself. It is not meaningful. It's counterproductive, counter-development. It is that in itself which is counterproductive. And anybody who stops that is taking a progressive move. And therefore, it will not be anti-media if out of all the media houses, performance may not be on the same rating, and given the preferential rating, their awards may be determined. And of course, out of the lot, if a few drop, you know that is a good score.
So viewers, we will take a short commercial break. When we return, the program continues. Do stay tuned.
You asked for it, and QCell is giving it to you with our new and improved Sunyu Bundle Mega Promo. Now you can get more data at cheaper prices. Buy any of our bundle packages and enjoy massive discounts. Dial *303# and enjoy browsing on the network with the biggest coverage. Buy a 20 megabytes data bundle for as low as $7 and 50 bottles today, or purchase bigger bundles up to 20 gigabytes. Yes, that's right, 20 gigabytes of data at your fingertips. With our mega promo bundles, you can browse more, chat longer, and stay connected on the go, anytime, anywhere. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, we innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, you are reminded that you are watching the One-to-One program here on QTV, and I am Julden Jai. Well, my guest tonight is Honorable Lamin Queen Jammeh, the Minister of Information, and we were talking about the information value chain, what the ministry has been doing. They plan to set up a commission that will facilitate this, and of course, we were talking also about ATI Act, how government readiness and what the plans in place to actually implement it. Recently, the State of the Nation address of the President, he mentioned that the new Ministry of Information has shown unprecedented readiness to pay more attention to the development of the information value chain through fresh initiatives. So what are these fresh initiatives that the President was talking about?
Thank you very much once again, Julde. Some of the initiatives that the ministry is embarking on is, for example, formulation of the national communication strategy through partnership with National Democratic Institute. The ATI is a commitment. In order to achieve the commitment, it is important that the right infrastructure must be laid available. And this is one reason why a strategy was felt very necessary. And that national communication strategy is one initiative that the ministry is doing. The other one I said earlier on is the key stakeholder consultative forum. In an open governance system, participation of the citizenry is very important. Accountability of public officers to the citizenry is equally very important. And it is in the spirit of that participation of the citizenry that the ministry thought of calling for key stakeholders consultative forum, where they will be invited, they will be interacted with, in order to, one, as I said earlier on, identify potential membership of the commission, the Information Commission. And very importantly also, to look at what you describe as draconian laws that are still available in our books for repeal, possible repeal. Yeah. These are two very important functions that the forum would look at. Okay. Another initiative that we have taken is also signing an MOU with another very important partner, which is the Gambia Press Union. The ministry has gone into this MOU with the press union, having regarded each other as inseparable partners in the information value chain. Signing an MOU was therefore seen to be very important and moving in the right direction.
What's this MOU all about, if I may ask?
Is only to harmonize the working relationship, more importantly in the implementation of the ATI. That is the primary focus. Yes, to facilitate the entire process, you know, so that the information value chain would be beneficial and would be hitch-free, if you like.
Okay.
Hmm?
Okay.
It is also in the making, having partnership with our another partner, which is the Freedom House. We are developing a medium-term strategic plan with Freedom House. This medium-term strategic plan has 6 important pillars, very important pillars. One of the pillars of the strategic plan is citizen empowerment, empowerment of the citizenry through the implementation of ATI. So you can see that the ATI is very central in the overall program of the Ministry of Information. We wouldn't see ourselves happy without implementing the ATI to the fullest. So this is one empowerment, is one of the strategic pillars of the strategy, whose objective, the ATI Access to Information objective being to create an information and knowledge society that will shape the future of this country. All right? Another strategy pillar out of the 6 is broader legal and regulatory capacity for the ministry itself, so that services can be better delivered by the ministry and associated partners. In this broader legal and regulatory capacity, attention would be given to the capacity in-house at the ministry and also some of the associated partners. For example, we may look at the Information and Communication Act of 2009 for review. All right? Another pillar is building an information repository, which shall be a central database. A central database on all public funded initiatives, projects and programs undertaken by ministries, departments and agencies, because it is the commitment of the borough administration that public funds must be utilized correctly, and that the people who are responsible of those projects and programs must be accountable to the public. And the most reliable way of making them accountable to the public is to make information accessible to the public.
This central database system that you are talking about here, it's very important.
Absolutely.
So when are we really expecting this to roll out? And this particular database, when it comes to access, who has access to this database? Is it everybody, or it's limited to only government officials?
The objective is not to limit it to only government officers. In fact, on the contrary, it would be the responsibility of government officials to make this information available to the public. When shall it be? You must also understand that it is a process. In this process, we are aiming to begin putting up the structure where information complaints can be lodged. You know, the Information Commission is a body that would be responsible of receiving, one part of their function is to be receiving complaints from the public on matters of information in the value chain. Since that is going to begin in earnest come the new year, it is expected that gradually all other sectors, parts of it will unfold. Yes, and one of the requirements, the information repository shall be provided. And it is in the best interest, it is also a very good monitoring tool, if you like, that this repository is made available. Okay. So that is another pillar. Another pillar of the strategy is public consultation and popularization of government agenda. Government is constantly and regularly consulting with the public, sharing information of public concern. This is important in order to have the necessary feedback from what public opinion is. All right? That aside, it is also important to popularize government's development agenda. Because it is one thing to be doing it for people. It is another thing to let those people understand what is being done by government. Unless that is done, sometimes it may not be appreciated by them because they would not be in the know. So that is why it is a strategic pillar of the strategy that government agenda must be popularized and the public must be consulted. Okay. All right? Then the other strategic pillar is capacity building, as I said earlier, to equip the ministry with the requisite technical, financial, and human competencies for the transformation process. Okay. You know, we have already posted to a good number of the ministries our public information officers. There should be a certain strategy developed to clearly define how information from within every setup can be accessed. Who is responsible of what? Anything that is generated as information in a certain ministry must therefore be made accessible to a certain person. This could be the information officer, it could be the permanent secretary, okay, who is the accounting officer of the ministry. Okay. Then they are put in a central location that provides a database to the extent that there may come a time that any information that you require on the side of government, by the click of the button, you may be able to access it.
So speaking of access to information, we know that the Ministry of Information is supposed to be the first port of call as far as information is concerned. And all these initiatives you're talking about here, we want to believe that it should be piloted first before it is actually realized, or before the finalization process. At the level of the ministry, what have you been doing about access to information? How accessible is your information to the public?
What the Ministry of Information, in fact, let me make this correction. It is not any piloting that we are going to do. Okay. All right? It is going to be rolling out the program of ATI. What the ministry has been doing is to initiate undertakings, programs, and activities that will make public information accessible to the public, mostly in a proactive manner, if you like. As a consequence of this, some initiatives have been done. One is the encouragement at the highest level that public officers must make themselves available for media engagement so that the public could know something about what government is doing in their respective ministries. If you are observant, you would have observed that there is a change in the trend. Because of some retrospective experiences of the past, it had been a problem for public officers to make themselves readily available for media engagement because of what had been experienced in the past. But over time, the trend is changing. We are advocating for this as a matter of duty, that we bear the duty as duty bearers to make information of what we are doing accessible to the public.
Let's now move to Personal Data Protection and Privacy Bill 2023. Of course, it has been reviewed and finalized and submitted for cabinet approval. So, which is according to the president, of course. So, what is the update on that bill?
Thank you very much. Enactment require processes. The status of the Personal Data Protection and Privacy Bill 2023 is at the level of Cabinet Office, all right, and needs the incorporation of the views of key stakeholders such as the State Intelligence Agency, the State Intelligence SIS, and also the Ministry of Interior. These two institutions are required to input the bill. From what level again it will be brought to the cabinet, and once it is approved by cabinet, it will be mentioned in the National Assembly for tabling an enactment. So that is the status.
No, but there is huge government commitment to that effect.
Serious commitment. Serious commitment. You know, another indication at the highest level, a mention and advocacy of the ATI at the highest level is a high degree of commitment and political will. If this commitment and the political will had not been there, it will not be mentioned at the highest level. It could only have been ignored. So it is a process that we are committed to. And I must say, each time, the fortune we have is that each time you interact with the President, His Excellency President Adama Barrow, what he would show you fundamentally is that he is interested in building a legacy that history will remember him for. All right? So with such a commitment at the highest level, I cannot see anything humanly that can stop it from happening.
So, of course, we know that the ministry is a new one, the Ministry of Information. What are some of the key achievements that you've registered over the years? Because all that you've mentioned, it's initiative, programs, policies, strategies that you have in place that you are working towards. But is there anything that you've registered, any success story that you've registered so far?
Julde, you see, a ministry that is primarily assigned to work on information cannot be measured by tangible developments as in the form of infrastructure. The impact of the Ministry of Information in the creation and making information accessible and creating knowledge would impact society indirectly, affecting behaviors and attitudes of individuals, because that is the impact of knowledge. That is the impact of information. When information is obtained, when knowledge is acquired, it impacts behavior and attitudes. All right?
Okay.
So, being the case, the fundamental responsibility of the ministry remains making information as accessible as possible, advocating for the open governance system where the citizenry would participate, where the citizenry would have access to information, and where they can be heard. Once these are obtaining, the impact of it is that you will see in the democratic lifestyle of the people, sometimes you have to have some level of moderation because the rate at which, the speed at which some of them would move would require that you call them and inform them. All right? So it is the mover of the democratization process, if you like. The democratization process of the Gambia can be done being moved by accessibility to information and knowledge.
And that information and knowledge, you will agree with me that the key players or the key people who are responsible for that are the media practitioners and the journalists. Of course, you mentioned earlier on that you conducted a nationwide tour of the various media houses in the country, and I'm sure they must have highlighted some of the issues, concerns that they have. What is the ministry? What have you been doing about that? About some of the issues raised by the journalists. Of course, if the citizens should be informed, it is based on the media, and the media is also confronted with a lot of challenges. You mentioned earlier that you had a tour with these media houses.
Okay.
What are some of the challenges that they mentioned, and what is the ministry doing about that?
Important among the challenges that any media practitioner ordinarily would tell you in the Gambia today is the issue of the draconian laws. But understanding that everything is a process, the policy of government with those laws is to relax them without making them active until the time that they shall be repealed. They are seen to be bad laws, and because they are regarded as bad laws, government makes them inactive. They will be lie dormant until the best time that they would be repealed, they would be amended.
Now, what's the assurance that they will not be active or they will not be used by government officials or government itself?
One of the instrumental ways of making them vibrant is for the law enforcement agents to use them on charges against individual actors and taking them to court. But if they are relaxed, the law enforcement agent will not charge anybody for them. And so long as anybody is not charged, nobody would be taken to court on the basis of those draconian laws. And they remain inactive, dormant. I think that is also a good approach, because you see, changing a law requires a process. It is not as simple as fixing a plug. It requires a process. And this process would also require the participation of sometimes not a single entity, but a diverse group of entities. But I think what is reasonable, important, and that our development requires for now is the approach that government has taken. Leave them dormant until the time when it shall be mature for them to be repealed.
Okay.
And that is being done.
Okay. So moving on, has the nature of information and its consumption changed in the era of social media?
I must say that information is increasingly being accessed through electronic means today, electronic means of sharing, using both conventional as well as social media outlets. So the first part of the question, yes, is that there had been a significant change in the way information is accessed globally, and the Gambia is no exception. It has given way for social media, and this has come with the risk of pseudo and guerrilla journalism, if you like. All those who are claiming to be journalists, if it were in other fraternity like in the medical field, one may ask whether they would have been qualified to be journalists. All right? Whether you call them journalists or not journalists, one thing which is clear is that they are participating in the information value chain.
So what impact does this have in the government? Does it have any negative impact in the operation of government?
Yes, I'm saying they are, because regardless of the title or name that you give them, they are also playing their part in the value chain. And this, of course, has an impact. Impacts like on ethical reporting. All those who are making information accessible in the social media do not possess the ethics of journalists. And because they do not possess the ethics of journalists, they are therefore reporting unethically, leading to the emergence of misinformation and disinformation. Disinformation sometimes because they would have the clear intention of misinforming the public. And in that case, it is disinformation. Sometimes some of the actors may not have any clear intention of making any misinformation, but by the way it is done, information would be rendered inaccurate and therefore leading to misinformation.
I know we don't have enough time. We have less than a minute or so.
Okay.
But does the government, especially the ministry, has any plans of regulating the social media?
Yes, you know, the regulatory framework I told you will continue. So long as society is existing, there will always be need, depending on where human activity is directed, for laws to be made. Difficult and challenging as it may be seen to be, the social media would also require the formulation of some legislation in order to regulate the sector. However, the Gambia Media Council is also trying very well in their own ways. They are inviting people. In fact, this is an opportunity to let the public know that anybody who is aggrieved by any media information has a right to go to the Media Council to launch a complaint. And what would be done from that level is that the Media Council would bring them together in an arbitration to resolve whatever differences they may have.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Viewers, I'm afraid that's all we got time for till we come your way next week for another episode of the One-to-One program. It's been a pleasure, and I am Julden Jai. Bye-bye, and do have a good night.